Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a genuinely monumental shift happening right now at the intersection of structural biology and artificial intelligence. For generations, decoding biology meant some seriously painstaking physical labor. Think about it. We spent decades huddled over microscopes, running chemical assays in the lab, just slowly mapping out the building blocks of life, one tiny piece at a time. But now, we are moving from that era of incredibly slow physical extraction to instantaneously computing biology right in the cloud. The sheer scale of this transition, from physical pipettes to digital predictions, is honestly hard to overstate. And as you see, the implications for everything from agriculture to human medicine are absolutely staggering.
I want you to pause for a second and just imagine a world where the intricate, hidden machinery of our cells is completely visible and totally predictable. What if we didn't have to guess anymore? What if we didn't have to spend years experimenting in a lab just to see exactly how these microscopic building blocks fit together? What if a computer could just, do the math and show us? Well, that is the exact reality we're stepping into today.
All right, Section 1, Life's Molecular Machines. Let's get right into it. To truly grasp how massive this shift is, let's zoom way down into the microscopic world. Every plant, animal, and human cell is basically a bustling factory made of billions of complex molecular machines. We're talking proteins, DNA, and RNA. But here's the catch. No single piece of this machinery works on its own. It's the physical interaction of these parts across millions of combinations that actually creates the processes of life. And this right here brings us to the historical bottleneck of biology. For decades, just figuring out the 3D structure of one of these interacting proteins was a massively frustrating undertaking. Imagine dedicating 4 to 6 years of your life, literally the entire length of a PhD program, and spending hundreds of thousands of dollars just to map a single shape. Now compare that grueling reality to this new AI method, where scientists can get highly accurate models with just a few clicks, for free, using a research server. It's not just a minor improvement, it's a complete paradigm shift in how fast we can make scientific discoveries.
Moving on to Section 2, the AlphaFold 3 breakthrough.
So what's actually driving this massive leap? Enter AlphaFold 3, developed by Google DeepMind and Isomorphic Labs. This AI model doesn't just chip away at that biological bottleneck, it completely shatters the whole thing. Now, the previous version, AlphaFold 2, made absolute waves back in 2020 by solving the 50-year-old grand challenge of protein folding. But AlphaFold 3, it takes a massive leap forward. It's mastered a broad spectrum of all of life's biomolecules. We're talking DNA, RNA, small molecules called ligands, and even the critical chemical modifications that control the healthy functioning of our cells. Going from predicting just proteins to predicting all of these biomolecules isn't just a software upgrade, it's like leaping from seeing the biological world in black and white to suddenly seeing it in a full, high-definition rainbow.
Let's look under the hood at the deep learning architecture making this possible. AlphaFold 3 relies on next-generation architectures, building on foundational mechanisms like attention networks. These allow the model to track global dependencies across just vast sequences of biological data. It uses an improved evo-former module and then, and this is super cool, much like the AI systems you might use to generate images from text prompts, it employs a diffusion network. Think of this diffusion process kind of like static on an old television set. The AI starts with a chaotic cloud of atoms, and over many computational steps, it clears away the noise, converging that static into a crystal-clear, highly accurate 3D molecular structure. The crucial point here is the unprecedented accuracy. For predicting how proteins interact with other molecule types, AlphaFold 3 delivers at least a 50% improvement over existing methods. In fact, on standard industry benchmarks like PoseBusters, it's the first AI system to ever surpass traditional physics-based tools for biomolecular structure prediction. And why should we care about some benchmark called PoseBusters? Because that 50% isn't just a bump on a spreadsheet somewhere. In the real world of human health, a 50% leap in accuracy translates directly to years shaved off drug development timelines and vastly faster tracks to curing complex diseases.
Which brings us perfectly to Section 3, Accelerating Drug Discovery.
Let's look at the macro impact and see how this builds into real-world applications. We aren't just talking about abstract academic science here. This fundamentally changes the commercial pharmaceutical landscape. To really understand how, we need a super quick vocabulary lesson. What exactly is a ligand? Simply put, a ligand is a small molecule that binds to a larger one, which is usually a protein. Think of it like a highly specific physical key fitting perfectly into a biological lock. Most of the drugs you take, from everyday pain relievers to highly targeted cancer therapies, are essentially ligands designed to bind to proteins in your body to change how they interact, either to fight a disease or to promote health. So AlphaFold 3's ability to accurately model these ligand interactions without human intervention is an absolutely game-changing breakthrough for medicine.
Here's how that actually plays out in practice. Isomorphic Labs is actively using this technology alongside their own in-house AI models to revolutionize drug design. Imagine researchers trying to target a really rare, aggressive cancer. Instead of blindly testing chemical compounds in a lab for years and years, they just input their target molecule list directly into the system. The AI generates a joint 3D structure showing exactly how those specific molecules fit together, and then it accurately predicts drug-like interactions. This step-by-step digital process allows researchers to pursue complex disease targets that were previously considered entirely out of reach by traditional pharma methods.
All right. Section 4, Democratizing Scientific Research.
Now, right about now, you might be thinking, okay, this kind of immense computational power has to be locked away in some corporate vault, right? Only accessible to a select few elite institutions. But shift gears with me here, because that is actually not the case at all. This technology is actively being shared with the global scientific community. As Celine Bouchot over at the Francis Crick Institute points out, Google DeepMind launched the AlphaFold server, making the majority of the model's capabilities entirely free for non-commercial research. It empowers biologists globally to test completely novel hypotheses in just a few clicks, regardless of whether they have a massive machine learning background or $1 million computational budget. But obviously, releasing a tool that can literally map all the molecules of life requires some serious caution. DeepMind took a very careful, science-led approach here. Before launching, they consulted with more than 50 domain experts and specialist third parties to conduct extensive biosecurity assessments and mitigate potential risks. And it's not just about safety, it's about leveling the playing field. They're actively partnering with organizations in the Global South to ensure scientists everywhere have the tools they need to research drastically underfunded areas. This means empowering local scientists to find solutions for neglected diseases and urgent food security issues right in their own regions.
And finally, Section 5, Alphabet's AI ecosystem.
Let's zoom all the way out now to look at the massive corporate infrastructure making these specific scientific breakthroughs possible. Because, well, none of this happens in a vacuum. It requires an ecosystem of staggering scale. And this is where Alphabet's unique structural advantage comes into play. They designed the entire AI value chain, which is known as the full stack advantage. It starts at the foundational hardware level with their custom Ironwood tensor processing units, or TPUs. Custom silicon isn't just a corporate buzzword. It means they are physically manufacturing the actual computer chips from scratch, optimized solely to run these massive AI calculations. This hardware powers the frontier software models like Gemini and AlphaFold. And then it finishes with a global distribution network of products, each reaching over 500 million users. This self-reinforcing loop gives them an infrastructural edge that is incredibly difficult for any competitor to match.
Just to give you an idea of the staggering scale of Alphabet's commitment to this infrastructure, look at this number. They recently announced a proposed $84.75 billion equity capital raise. Take a moment to really process that number. $84 billion. This massive influx of capital is specifically designed to rapidly expand their AI infrastructure and compute power. You simply cannot run models that predict the shape of life itself without an absolute ocean of raw computing fuel behind it, and Alphabet is literally building that ocean.
And that compute power has already yielded an incredible compounding scientific advantage. Through their free database, they've already mapped and openly shared the structures of 200 million proteins. To put the sheer gravity of that into perspective, at the previous rate of experimental structural biology, mapping those 200 million structures physically in a lab would have taken hundreds of millions of researcher years. Let that sink in. Which brings us to our final thought for today. AlphaFold 3 has brought the biological world into stunning high definition, fundamentally transforming our understanding of cellular systems. But the most exciting and maybe slightly mind-bending part is that we are really just at the starting line. If AI can now map the interactions of all the molecules of life with this level of precision, the next logical question is, how long until it learns to safely and predictably reprogram them? The future of AI-powered cell biology is unfolding right in front of us, and it is going to change absolutely everything. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep exploring.